Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Roy English Talk. Have you ever promised yourself, this time I'll really learn English, but gave up after a few days? The truth is, learning English isn't just about grammar or vocabulary, it's about self-discipline. In this video, you'll discover how to stay consistent, focused, and motivated, even when you don't feel like studying, so you can finally speak English with confidence. The real reason you struggle to learn English. You've tried again and again to learn English, new apps, online lessons, even watching movies without subtitles. Yet somehow you still hesitate when it's time to speak. You understand a lot, but the words don't come out easily. Why does that happen? The truth is simple. The problem isn't your brain or your ability to learn. The real challenge is consistency. Most English learners start with excitement. The first few days feel powerful. You imagine yourself speaking fluently, impressing people, feeling proud. But after a week or two, motivation fades. You start skipping lessons, telling yourself, I'll do it tomorrow. Slowly, that tomorrow becomes next week, and your dream of speaking English feels more and more distant. Sound familiar? Here's what's really going on. Your brain is wired to avoid discomfort. Every time you study English, you challenge yourself. Your brain feels a little tired, maybe even embarrassed when you make mistakes. So, it tries to protect you by creating excuses. It tells you, you're too busy, or you'll study later when you're more focused. But that's just resistance, the quiet voice that stops millions of learners around the world. You see, learning English isn't only about words, it's about mindset. You can know every grammar rule and still freeze when someone asks you, "How are you?" That's not a language problem. That's a discipline problem. Discipline means doing what you said you would do, even when you don't feel like it. It's the difference between the person who becomes fluent and the one who gives up halfway. Think of English like building a muscle. If you go to the gym for 1 week, you won't see results. But if you go consistently for 6 months, the transformation is obvious. The same rule applies here. Discipline builds your English muscle. Every study session, every mistake, every moment you practice, it's all part of growth. Here's something most learners never realize. Motivation starts you, but discipline keeps you going. You don't need to feel excited every day. You just need to show up. Fluency doesn't come from one big effort. It comes from thousands of small, repeated actions. That's why disciplined learners always win. Let's imagine 2 people. The first one studies English for 5 hours in 1 day and then stops for a week. The second person studies just 20 minutes a day every day. Who will improve faster? Of course, the one who practices daily. Because consistency creates momentum, and momentum creates confidence. But here's the beautiful part. Once you start seeing progress, discipline becomes easier. When you finally understand a movie scene without subtitles, or hold a conversation with someone in English, that feeling of pride fuels you to keep going. Success creates motivation, not the other way around. And if you've failed before, don't worry. You didn't fail because you're lazy or bad at English. You simply didn't have a system that made discipline easy. You relied on emotion instead of structure. But after this video, that will change. To understand this better, think of a child learning to walk. The child doesn't stop after falling once or twice. They fall hundreds of times, but they get up again. They don't think, I'm bad at walking. They just keep trying. That's discipline in its purest form. But as adults, we lose that patience. We expect fast results and quit when progress feels slow. You have to remember, slow progress is still progress. Every time you listen to an English podcast, every sentence you write, every mistake you correct, it all adds up. Discipline is about trusting that those small actions will lead to something big, even when you can't see the results immediately. Here's a simple truth. The people who speak great English today aren't necessarily smarter than you. They were just more consistent than you. They didn't give up when lessons got boring or difficult. They kept showing up, and that's what made them fluent. Discipline also means making learning automatic. You don't need to think, should I study today? It becomes part of who you are, like brushing your teeth or drinking water. That's when the magic happens. When discipline replaces decision-making, progress becomes unstoppable. Let me share a story. A student named Rena from Indonesia once told me she had tried learning English for years, but always stopped after a month. Then she made one small change. She promised herself to learn just 10 minutes every morning, no matter what. She didn't skip a single day for 6 months. Today, she can hold full conversations confidently. Her secret wasn't talent. It was discipline through small, consistent steps. You can do the same. You don't need perfect grammar right now. You don't need fancy courses. What you need is commitment, a simple promise to yourself that you'll keep learning, even on the days you don't feel like it. Because those days matter the most. And remember, discipline is not punishment. It's freedom. When you become disciplined, you control your time, your focus, and your growth. You no longer depend on feeling ready. You create your own readiness. So if you've been struggling to stay consistent with English, stop blaming your motivation. Start building discipline instead. Because once you master discipline, English becomes a part of you. Natural, easy, and powerful. In the next section, we'll uncover what self-discipline really means, how it's built, and how you can start using it today to accelerate your English journey faster than ever before. Because your success in English doesn't depend on luck or talent. It depends on what you do every single day. Understanding self-discipline. What it really means. When you hear the word discipline, what comes to your mind? Maybe you think of strict teachers, hard routines, or endless rules. But real self-discipline isn't about punishment or perfection. It's about freedom. It's about choosing what matters most to you and doing it even when it's not easy. It's a quiet power that transforms dreams into habits and habits into results. Most people believe that self-discipline is about controlling yourself. But in reality, it's about training yourself. It's not a war against your emotions. It's learning to guide them. Think about it like this. Your emotions are the waves, and discipline is your surfboard. You can't stop the waves, but you can learn how to ride them. When it comes to learning English, discipline doesn't mean studying for 10 hours straight. It means showing up consistently, even if it's just 15 minutes. It means keeping your promise to yourself. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be present. Self-discipline is also about clarity. You can't stay consistent if you don't know why you're doing it. Ask yourself, why do you want to learn English? Maybe you want better career opportunities. Maybe you want to study abroad or connect with people globally. Whatever your reason, that's your emotional anchor, your why. Without it, you'll quit when things get hard. Think of self-discipline as a bridge between your goals and your results. On one side is your dream. I want to speak English fluently. On the other side is reality, the moment you actually do it. The bridge that connects the two is built one plank at a time. One study session, one vocabulary list, one conversation. And every time you keep going when you don't feel like it, you add another plank. Let's go deeper. There are 3 pillars that form true self-discipline: commitment, focus, and patience. Commitment means making a decision and sticking to it. You can't wait for perfect conditions. There's no right time to learn English. The best time is always now. Once you decide that English is part of your life, not just a hobby, everything changes. It becomes part of your identity. Focus means removing distractions that steal your energy. Every time you scroll on your phone instead of practicing, you're training your brain to choose comfort over growth. Real discipline means creating an environment that helps you win. Turning off notifications, setting a specific study time, and respecting that schedule like a meeting with your future self. Patience is the hardest part. Learning English or anything valuable takes time. You'll make mistakes. You'll feel stuck. But those moments are your real teachers. When you stay patient, you train your mind to handle frustration, and that's when growth truly begins. Let's make it practical. Imagine two versions of yourself. The first version studies only when they feel motivated. They wait for the right moment, or when they're in the mood. The second version studies every day, no matter what. Even when tired, they do something small. Watch a short video, read one article, repeat 5 new words. Who becomes fluent faster? Of course, the second one. That's discipline in action. Small, consistent steps that compound over time. Here's something powerful. Self-discipline is not built overnight. It's built through repetition. Each time you keep a small promise, you build trust with yourself. Over time, that trust becomes confidence. You start thinking, if I said I'll do it, I'll do it. That's when your life starts changing. Not just in English, but in everything. Let me tell you a quick story. There was a man who wanted to improve his English to get a better job. But every time he tried to study, he got distracted. Then one day, he decided to make one simple rule. No English, no breakfast. He couldn't eat until he practiced English for at least 15 minutes. The first few days were tough, but soon it became automatic. After a few months, his English improved dramatically, and he got the job he wanted. What changed wasn't his skill. It was his self-discipline. You see, self-discipline isn't something you're born with. It's something you build, one choice at a time. Every time you choose progress over comfort, you strengthen that muscle. And just like learning English, it gets easier the more you do it. There's also a myth that disciplined people are strict and boring. But that's wrong. The most disciplined people are usually the most free. They don't waste time thinking, should I do this? They already decided. Their discipline gives them more time, more focus, and more peace. When you're disciplined with English, you no longer feel guilty for missing practice, because you rarely do. You no longer feel lost because you have a plan. Discipline turns chaos into clarity. It transforms learning from something you try to do into something you just do. But how do you actually develop that kind of discipline? The key is identity. You must stop saying, I'm trying to learn English, and start saying, I'm an English learner. That small change in identity changes your behavior. When you see yourself as someone who learns English, you naturally act like it. You practice, you listen, you speak. The more you act according to that identity, the stronger it becomes. Your habits shape your discipline, and your discipline shapes your future. So, from now on, don't chase motivation. Build identity and structure. Make a plan that's realistic, simple, and non-negotiable. Remember, self-discipline is not about doing everything perfectly. It's about never giving up completely. In the next section, we'll talk about why motivation isn't enough, and how relying on motivation alone can actually stop your progress. But once you combine motivation with the power of self-discipline, learning English becomes unstoppable. Because in the end, discipline isn't about control. It's about becoming the kind of person who always keeps their promises, especially the ones they make to themselves. Why motivation isn't enough? Motivation feels amazing, doesn't it? It's that rush of energy you get after watching an inspiring video or hearing someone say, "You can do it." In that moment, you feel unstoppable. You open your English book, take notes, maybe even speak a few sentences out loud. But then, a few days later, that spark fades. Suddenly, you don't feel like studying anymore. You tell yourself, I'll do it tomorrow. And before you realize it, a week has passed. So what happened? Did you lose interest? Were you too busy? No, you just ran out of motivation. Motivation is like fuel in a car. It helps you start the journey, but it burns out quickly. If your entire English learning depends on motivation, you'll always stop halfway. Here's the truth. Motivation is temporary. Discipline is permanent. Motivation is based on emotion, and emotions change. Some days you feel great, some days you don't. If you wait until you feel like it, you'll study less than 20% of the time. But if you rely on discipline, you'll keep learning no matter how you feel. That's what separates fluent speakers from those who give up. Let me give you an example. Imagine you have two students, Maria and Ahmed. Both want to improve their English. Maria studies only when she feels motivated. Ahmed studies every morning, even if he's tired. After 3 months, Maria's progress is small, but Ahmed can already hold conversations confidently. Why? Because while Maria followed her emotions, Ahmed followed his habits. Motivation creates movement. Discipline creates mastery. The problem is that most people misunderstand motivation. They think it's something that magically appears, that one day they'll feel ready. But motivation doesn't appear out of nowhere. It's created by action. When you take action, even small steps, your brain releases dopamine, the chemical that makes you feel good. That's why the best way to get motivated is to start doing the work. You don't wait for motivation. You create it through movement. Think about the last time you cleaned your room or worked on a task you didn't want to do. At first you resisted, but once you started it wasn't so bad, right? You got into the flow, and by the end, you felt proud. That's how English works too. The hardest part is starting. Once you start, the momentum builds naturally. Another reason motivation fails is because it's based on emotion, not logic. You might feel excited when you watch a motivational video, but that excitement doesn't build long-term results. It's like eating sugar. It gives you a quick high, then disappears. Discipline, on the other hand, is like healthy food. It might not be exciting, but it nourishes you in the long run. Here's the thing. Successful learners don't rely on motivation. They rely on systems. They set up a routine that makes studying automatic. For example, they decide, every morning after breakfast I'll study for 20 minutes. Over time, that habit becomes so normal that they don't even question it. The discipline removes the decision-making. There's no "should I study today?" because it's already part of their day. Let me share a story. A young man named Raphael wanted to learn English for his career. He started strong, full of motivation, but after 2 weeks he lost interest. Then, instead of quitting, he made one small change. He decided to practice English immediately after brushing his teeth every morning. That tiny habit connected his learning to an existing routine. After a month, he no longer needed motivation. It became automatic. A year later, Raphael spoke English fluently and got a promotion. His secret wasn't willpower. It was structure. That's the difference between people who dream and people who achieve. Dreamers wait for motivation. Achievers build systems. Let's face it, there will be days when you don't want to study. Maybe you're tired or busy or stressed, but discipline means showing up anyway. You don't have to be perfect, just consistent. Even studying for 10 minutes counts, because every time you study when you don't feel like it, you strengthen your self-discipline muscle. That's when real growth happens. Here's another truth. Motivation fades when you focus only on results. When you expect instant improvement, you get disappointed. But if you focus on the process, on showing up and learning a little every day, motivation stays alive longer. Don't measure success by how fast you improve. Measure it by how often you practice. That's the real progress. One of the biggest traps in learning English is waiting for the right mood. The best learners understand that the right mood rarely comes. They don't ask, "Do I feel like studying?" They ask, "What's the next step?" That small shift in thinking changes everything. Also, motivation often depends on external factors: watching videos, hearing compliments, or getting good results. But discipline comes from within. It's quiet. It's not flashy. Nobody sees you practicing pronunciation at night. Nobody claps for you when you study vocabulary before bed. But that's where transformation happens. In silence, not in applause. So if you ever feel unmotivated, don't panic. It's normal. Even native speakers lose motivation when learning something new. The secret is not to quit during low motivation days. Remember this: you can rest, but don't stop. Even if you only review 5 words, you're still moving forward. Here's a simple formula: motivation, emotion before action. Discipline, choose action before emotion. Motivation waits for you to feel inspired. Discipline creates inspiration through doing. And once you understand that, everything changes. You stop chasing perfect moments and start creating progress. You stop depending on external inspiration and start trusting your own effort. So, the next time you tell yourself, "I don't feel like studying English," remind yourself that your goal is bigger than your feelings. Feelings come and go, but discipline builds fluency. Building daily habits for language mastery. You've probably heard this before. Habits shape your life. But here's the truth most people miss: habits shape your identity. They define who you become. When you build strong habits around learning English, you stop trying to study. It becomes part of who you are. You transform from someone who learns English into someone who lives in English. The secret isn't to study harder. It's to make English study so simple, so automatic that you can't fail. You don't need to study 5 hours a day. You just need to make learning part of your daily rhythm, something you do almost without thinking, like drinking water or checking your phone. Let's start with this truth. Motivation starts you, but habits keep you going. If discipline is the engine, habits are the wheels. They move you forward, even when you don't feel like driving. So how do you actually build habits that last? It all begins with tiny actions. Most people fail because they start too big. They decide, "From now on, I'll study English for 2 hours every day." That sounds great on paper, but it's not realistic. Life happens. You get busy. You get tired. And when you miss a day, guilt takes over. But what if you started with something so small? You couldn't say no. Maybe just 10 minutes a day, maybe 5 new words, maybe watching 1 English video and repeating a few sentences. That's it. The power of small habits is that they don't require huge effort. But over time, they create massive change. Think of it like planting a seed. You don't see results on day 1, but if you water it daily, that seed grows roots. The roots become a tree, and one day you have shade, fruit, and strength. Your English works the same way. Each small, consistent action builds your fluency roots, invisible at first, but incredibly strong. Now, here's a simple 3-step formula to build lasting English habits. Step 1. Connect English to something you already do. This is called habit stacking. If you drink coffee every morning, listen to an English podcast while you sip. If you take the bus to work, read short English articles or repeat phrases quietly. If you brush your teeth at night, say 1 English sentence in front of the mirror. When you connect English to an existing routine, you remove resistance. You don't need willpower. It just happens naturally. Step 2. Make it easy. If learning feels complicated, you won't stick to it. So remove friction. Keep your English notebook or app ready on your phone's home screen. Use short, simple lessons instead of long ones. Remember, progress is about consistency, not intensity. A 5-minute habit you do daily beats a 2-hour habit you quit after a week. Step 3. Reward yourself. Every time you complete your small English habit, celebrate it. Even if it's just saying, "Nice job," or checking it off a list. Your brain loves rewards. When it feels that little success, it releases dopamine, making you want to repeat the behavior again. That's how habits stick, not through pressure, but through pleasure. Let me share a story. A learner named Maya from Brazil once struggled to stay consistent. She tried many methods but always lost focus. Then she created a simple rule. Every day, before checking social media, she had to do 10 minutes of English practice. She made a small checklist: listening, speaking, reading, writing, and ticked one box per day. After 3 months, she didn't even think about it anymore. English became automatic. She now writes emails confidently in English at work. Her secret wasn't motivation or talent. It was designing habits that fit her life, not fighting her life to fit habits. That's what you need to do. Make English fit naturally into your day. You don't have to quit your job or spend all night studying. You just need to integrate it smartly. Listen while cooking. Speak while walking. Read before bed. The world gives you endless opportunities to practice if you look for them. Another trick to make habits stick is tracking your progress. Use a notebook or an app to mark every day you practice. When you see a long streak of days, your brain doesn't want to break it. That's called the don't break the chain method, and it works incredibly well. Even a small check mark gives you motivation to keep going. Also, remember that environment shapes behavior. If your phone is full of distractions, your English habit will lose the battle. Create an environment where English is visible. Change your phone's language, follow English creators, label items in your house with English words. Surround yourself with the language and your brain will adapt faster. Now let's talk about habit recovery. What to do when you miss a day. Because yes, you will miss days. Life isn't perfect. But missing one day isn't failure. The key rule is never miss twice. If you skip one day, restart the next. The danger isn't one missed day. It's letting guilt make you quit. Forgive yourself quickly and move forward. Discipline isn't about never falling. It's about always standing up again. Here's a powerful mindset. Stop aiming for perfection. Aim for consistency. Because perfect habits don't exist, but consistent ones change everything. And here's something interesting. Once you build a few strong habits, they start building you. Your confidence grows. You begin to think in English without forcing it. You start dreaming in English. You reply faster, write better, and understand naturally. That's when you realize you're not just learning English anymore. You're living it. This transformation doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen. One small step at a time. And it's not luck. It's discipline, structured into daily habits. So here's your challenge. Starting tomorrow, commit to one small English habit. It could be 5 minutes of listening or reading one page or writing one sentence. Do it at the same time every day for 21 days. Watch how your brain adapts. You'll be amazed at the results, because when English becomes part of your routine, fluency is no longer a dream. It's a lifestyle. Overcoming distractions and staying consistent. Distractions are everywhere. You open your phone to check a message, and suddenly 30 minutes are gone. You sit down to study English, but your brain wants to scroll, snack, or switch tabs. It's not that you don't want to learn. It's that the modern world is designed to steal your attention. Here's the truth. Your ability to stay focused is your biggest advantage. In a noisy world, discipline is a superpower. But don't worry. Staying consistent doesn't mean cutting out all fun or living like a monk. It means creating boundaries that protect your growth. Let's start with the biggest challenge, your phone. It's both your best learning tool and your biggest distraction. You can learn English from YouTube, podcasts, and apps, but the same device also tempts you with endless scrolling. So, what's the solution? Control your digital environment before it controls you. Here's a simple trick. Before every study session, put your phone on focus mode or airplane mode. Or, if you use it for learning, remove every other notification. Make English the only option on your screen. Your mind can't resist temptation if it's staring at it, so make sure temptation isn't visible. Next, set specific learning times. Instead of saying, "I'll study when I have time," say, "I'll study every day at 8 p.m. When you schedule learning, it becomes a habit, not a random task. And over time, your brain learns to prepare for it, just like it knows when it's time to eat or sleep. Another powerful technique is called the Pomodoro method, 25 minutes of focused study, followed by a 5-minute break. It's simple, but it works because your brain loves structure. During those 25 minutes, give your full attention to English. No multitasking, no distractions, just pure focus. Then reward yourself with a small break. Repeat this 3 or 4 times, and you'll be shocked by how much you learn. But consistency isn't only about time, it's also about energy. Some people study at night, others in the morning. Find your energy peak. When do you feel most alert? Use that time for English. You'll learn faster with half the effort because your brain is more receptive. Now, let's talk about mental distractions, the thoughts that whisper, "You're tired," or "You'll never be fluent." These are not truths. They're fears in disguise. You must train your mind like you train your muscles. When your thoughts tell you to stop, that's the exact moment to keep going, because that's when discipline grows. Here's a mental reframe that helps millions of learners. Don't say, "I have to study English." Say, "I get to study English." One word changes everything. Have to feels like pressure. Get to feels like privilege. You're not forced. You're choosing to grow, to expand your world, to connect globally. Gratitude turns discipline into joy. And yes, there will be days you don't feel like studying. Everyone faces that. But remember, consistency is not about being perfect. It's about returning. If you miss one day, come back stronger the next. Success isn't built by never falling. It's built by never staying down. Let me share a short story. Raj, a learner from India, used to quit after every small distraction. Every time his friends called or a new show dropped, he'd stop studying for weeks. One day, he decided to track his focus. He realized he was losing over 2 hours a day to aimless scrolling. So he made a rule: no social media until after English practice. The result? Within 3 months, his listening and speaking improved dramatically. Not because he studied harder, but because he studied without interruptions. You see, discipline isn't about doing more. It's about removing what doesn't matter. Every minute you take back from distraction is a gift to your progress. Here's a powerful 3-step method to master consistency. Step 1. Protect your learning zone. Find a quiet space, a corner of your room, a cafe, even a park bench. Use it only for English. When your brain associates that space with learning, focus becomes automatic. Step 2. Track your effort, not your results. Some days you'll feel fluent, other days you'll struggle. That's okay. Don't judge the day by how perfect your English sounds. Judge it by whether you showed up. Consistency is built on showing up, not on perfection. Step 3. Create accountability. Tell a friend, "I'm studying English every morning for 20 minutes. Check on me next week." Or post your progress online. When someone expects you to follow through, discipline doubles. One last mindset to remember. Discipline is a muscle, not a mood. Every time you choose focus over distraction, that muscle grows stronger, and soon what was once hard becomes natural. You'll no longer fight distractions. You'll simply ignore them because your purpose is louder. Imagine this. 3 months from now, you sit down to study. Your phone is silent. Your mind feels calm. You open your English notebook or app and you dive in. Focused, consistent, confident. That's not luck. That's discipline in action. And the best part? The focus you build here will help you far beyond English. It will shape how you work, how you think, and how you live. Because learning a language teaches you how to learn anything. How self-discipline changes your mindset and life. Self-discipline isn't just a skill, it's a mindset shift. It changes how you see challenges, how you deal with failure, and how you define success. When you build discipline while learning English, you're not only improving your language skills, you're training your brain to think, act, and grow differently. At first, self-discipline feels like a struggle. You push yourself to study even when you're tired. You resist distractions. You hold yourself accountable. But something amazing happens over time. What once felt hard starts to feel normal. Then it starts to feel powerful. You begin to trust yourself again. That's the true gift of discipline, self-trust. When you say, "I'll study today," and you actually do it, you prove to yourself that your words have weight. You stop breaking promises to yourself. That's when your confidence grows. Because confidence doesn't come from speaking perfect English. It comes from keeping small promises to yourself every single day. Now let's go deeper. Self-discipline transforms how you handle fear. Many learners are afraid of speaking wrong, of being judged, of failing. But disciplined learners know something powerful. Failure isn't final. Every mistake is just feedback. It's information that helps you improve. Discipline turns fear into focus. For example, imagine you speak English with someone and make a mistake. An undisciplined mind says, "I'm terrible at this. I'll stop trying." But a disciplined mind says, "Good. Now I know what to work on." That shift, from emotion to improvement, is what separates dreamers from achievers. Discipline also teaches patience. Fluency doesn't happen overnight. It's a journey. And on this journey, some days will feel slow. You'll study for weeks and feel like nothing is changing. But disciplined learners understand that growth happens below the surface, like roots growing before the flower blooms. You can't always see progress, but it's there. You just have to trust the process. Let me tell you a story. A learner named David from Nigeria once told me he felt stuck. He'd been studying English for 2 years but still couldn't speak fluently. He wanted to give up. I asked him, "How long did it take you to learn your first language?" He thought for a moment and laughed. "Years," he said. Exactly. Learning English takes time too, but discipline turns time into transformation. 6 months later, David was speaking confidently at his job interviews. Not because he found a secret method, but because he stopped quitting. That's what discipline does. It keeps you in the game long enough to win. Now, here's something most people never realize. When you become disciplined in one area of life, it spreads into others. You start waking up earlier. You plan your day better. You stop wasting time. You feel more in control, not just of English, but of your entire life. Because once your brain learns that effort equals progress, it applies that lesson everywhere. And the best part? Discipline changes your relationship with comfort. Most people chase comfort. They avoid pain, difficulty, and effort. But disciplined people understand that real comfort comes after effort, not before. You stop fearing hard work because you see what it gives you: freedom, confidence, and growth. So the next time you feel tired or frustrated, remind yourself, that's the exact moment you're getting stronger. Every time you push through resistance, you're rewiring your brain. You're teaching it that you're in control. Not your feelings, not your excuses. You. Let's talk about one more powerful shift. Self-discipline turns identity from I want to into I am. You stop saying, I want to speak English fluently, and start saying, I am someone who practices English daily. That identity change is the secret to lasting success. Because the person who identifies as disciplined no longer relies on motivation. It becomes part of who they are. Here's something practical you can do. Write down your new identity statement. For example, I am someone who learns English with consistency. I am someone who shows up, even on hard days. I am someone who grows through every mistake. Read that sentence every morning. Say it out loud. Over time, your brain begins to believe it, and when belief changes, behavior follows. Now, remember this. Discipline doesn't make life easier. It makes you stronger. When life throws challenges your way, discipline keeps you steady. You stop reacting emotionally and start acting intentionally. You don't panic when you don't understand a sentence or when you forget a word. You breathe, refocus, and keep going. That calm confidence, that's the power of discipline. And here's the most beautiful part. Discipline gives you freedom. It sounds strange, right? Doing the same thing every day feels like restriction. But in reality, it's the opposite. When you're disciplined, you're not controlled by laziness, procrastination, or fear anymore. You gain control over your time, your habits, and your future. Think about it. When you can choose to focus, when you can commit to your goals, when you can silence distractions, you're free. Free to create, free to grow, free to express yourself in English and in life. So the next time you study, remember, you're not just practicing vocabulary or grammar. You're building mental strength. You're building character. You're building freedom. Applying discipline in real-life English situations. Learning English isn't just about study time. It's about how you use it in real life. You can memorize thousands of words, but if you don't apply them, they fade. That's where discipline becomes your secret advantage. It's the bridge between learning and living English. Let's start with a simple truth. Your progress happens outside the classroom. Every conversation, every video, every message you write, those are opportunities to grow. But here's the problem. Many learners hesitate. They think, I'll start speaking when I'm ready. The truth? You'll never feel ready. You become ready by speaking. So how can you use self-discipline to push through that fear? Start with this mindset. Progress, not perfection. Each time you speak, you're not trying to be perfect. You're training confidence. Tell yourself, I'm not practicing to avoid mistakes. I'm practicing to grow. Here's a story that will inspire you. Maria from Brazil used to watch English movies every day but never spoke a word. She was afraid of sounding wrong. Then she made a disciplined rule. Every day she would say just 2 sentences in English, to anyone, even to herself. At first it felt awkward, but after 2 weeks those 2 sentences turned into full conversations. After 3 months, she was helping her friends learn English too. That's what happens when you apply small, consistent action. Discipline turns fear into fluency. Now, let's make this practical for your life. Practice discipline in conversations. When you talk to someone in English, listen with intention. Don't rush to translate in your head. Focus on understanding the message, not every word. And if you don't understand something, don't panic. Ask politely, can you please repeat that? Or could you say that slower? Each time you do this, you're training courage. You're teaching your mind. It's okay not to know, but it's not okay to stop trying. Be disciplined with feedback. Many learners avoid feedback because it feels uncomfortable. but disciplined learners seek it. They know that every correction brings them closer to fluency. Here's a simple rule. After every conversation, ask yourself, what did I say well? What can I improve next time? Write down one thing to work on. That's how you turn every experience into a lesson. Use discipline at work. Maybe you work in an international company or dream of one. English is your global tool. Discipline here means preparing before meetings, learning job-specific vocabulary, and practicing presentations. Don't wait until the last minute. Prepare daily. You'll be amazed how confidence grows when you know you've done the work consistently. Use discipline with English media. When you watch movies, listen to podcasts, or scroll social media, do it with purpose. Don't just listen passively. Pause, repeat, imitate. Take notes of new phrases. That's disciplined learning, turning entertainment into education. Now let's address one of the hardest parts, staying disciplined when no one's watching. It's easy to stay motivated when someone praises you or when you get fast results. But what about when progress feels invisible? That's when real discipline shows up. You remind yourself, every time I practice, I'm moving forward, even if I can't see it yet. Because the truth is, English fluency doesn't come in a single moment. It's built through hundreds of small, consistent choices. Here's a mindset that will help you apply discipline daily. Treat every interaction in English like a mini workout for your brain. When you struggle to find the right word, that's a rep. When you make a mistake and correct it, that's another rep. When you understand something you couldn't before, that's progress. Language learning is a mental gym, and discipline is your personal trainer. Now let's talk about time. You don't need 3 hours a day. You just need 20 focused minutes. Set a timer, pick one skill, speaking, listening, reading, or writing, and commit to it daily. When you study with full focus, even short sessions bring huge results. Let me share one more real story. Ahmed from Egypt worked full-time and had only 15 minutes a day, but he used those minutes every day. He would review one video, learn 5 new words, and write one short English paragraph. In 6 months, he was having full English conversations with clients. His secret wasn't talent, it was consistency. He showed up even on busy days. So here's your challenge. Choose one area of English to apply discipline this week. Maybe it's daily speaking practice. Maybe it's reading an English article each morning. Maybe it's writing a short reflection every night. Whatever it is, commit. Don't aim for perfection. Aim for presence. Because here's what will happen. Each disciplined action becomes a building block. Each day you show up, your confidence grows. Each conversation, your brain gets stronger. And before you realize it, English becomes part of who you are. Remember, your goal isn't to study English forever. Your goal is to live in English, to think, feel, and express yourself freely. That transformation begins when discipline meets daily practice. So, keep going. Speak even if it's not perfect. Listen, even if you don't understand everything. Write even when you're unsure. Every action counts, because success in English, just like success in life, belongs to those who stay consistent when it's hard. Turning discipline into long-term motivation. Motivation is like a spark. It starts the fire, but discipline keeps it burning. When you first start learning English, everything feels exciting. You watch videos, learn new words, and imagine yourself speaking fluently. But after a few weeks, that spark starts to fade. The lessons feel repetitive. Progress feels slow, and life gets busy. That's when most people quit, but not you. Because you're going to learn how to turn discipline into long-term motivation, the kind that doesn't depend on mood, time, or energy. The kind that grows stronger the longer you practice. Here's the first secret. Motivation follows action, not the other way around. Most people wait to feel motivated before they act. But disciplined people act first. And after they act, motivation shows up naturally. Think about it. How many times have you said, "I don't feel like studying"? But once you started, you felt good about it? That's how motivation really works. It's a result, not a requirement. So when you wake up tired or unmotivated, don't think, "I'll wait until I feel ready." Instead, say, "I'll start for 5 minutes." Those 5 minutes are magic, because once you begin, your brain switches from resistance to momentum. That's how long-term learners keep going. They start small, but they start every day. Now let's talk about something most learners forget: emotional connection. Discipline is powerful, but it becomes unstoppable when it's fueled by emotion. Ask yourself, why do I want to learn English? Is it to get a better job? To travel confidently? To connect with people around the world? Write down your why. Keep it where you can see it, on your wall, your desk, your phone. Because on hard days, when motivation feels low, your why will remind you that this effort has purpose. Here's a simple but powerful exercise. Every Sunday, take 2 minutes to visualize your goal. Close your eyes and imagine yourself speaking English fluently, expressing your thoughts easily, understanding everything, and feeling proud. Feel that joy. That future is possible, and every disciplined moment brings you closer. Now let's talk about celebrating progress. Many learners stay stuck because they focus only on what they haven't achieved. They say, "I still make mistakes," or "My accent isn't perfect." But disciplined learners track their wins. They notice, "I understood more words today. I spoke without fear. I watched a movie without subtitles." Each small win keeps your motivation alive. Because what you focus on grows. Focus on progress, and progress expands. Here's another truth. Long-term motivation needs renewal. Even the most disciplined people get tired, so don't just work hard, recover smart. Take short breaks. Change your routine. Watch something fun in English. Join an online group. Keep the learning process fresh and joyful. When your brain enjoys learning, discipline stops feeling like pressure and starts feeling like purpose. Now, let's look at a few practical habits that create unstoppable motivation. Set process goals, not just outcome goals. Instead of saying, "I want to speak fluently by next year," say, "I'll practice speaking for 15 minutes daily." You can't control outcomes, but you can control actions. And when you focus on actions, results take care of themselves. Track your streaks. Use a notebook, app, or calendar. Every day you study, mark a check. Watching your streak grow builds momentum. You'll start saying, "I can't break my streak." And that pride becomes your fuel. Reflect weekly. Once a week, ask yourself, what did I do well this week? What challenged me? What can I improve next week? This simple reflection turns discipline into learning intelligence. You stop repeating mistakes and start evolving. Reward yourself. Every milestone deserves celebration. Maybe after 30 days of consistent practice, you buy yourself something small, a coffee, a new notebook, or time to relax. These small rewards reinforce positive behavior and make discipline enjoyable. Now, let me tell you a short story about long-term motivation. Li Wei from China began learning English because she wanted to study abroad. At first, she studied 2 hours every day, but after 3 months, she burned out. She almost quit until she changed her focus from perfection to consistency. She reduced her study time to 30 minutes a day, but never missed a session. 1 year later, she achieved her goal. Her secret wasn't doing more. It was doing less but consistently. That's how discipline becomes a lifestyle, not a struggle. And remember, Long-term motivation is not about doing big things once. It's about doing small things daily. You don't climb a mountain in one leap. You take one step, then another, then another. Every day you show up, you're climbing higher, even if it doesn't feel like it. Here's a mindset that keeps disciplined people motivated for life. I am not learning English to prove myself. I'm learning English to improve myself. That's the difference between pressure and purpose. When you study out of self-love instead of self-doubt, discipline becomes your friend, not your fight. So, from now on, don't chase motivation. Build it. Every time you act with discipline, you're creating your own motivation. Every day you show up, you're proving to yourself that you can. Because real success doesn't belong to the most talented. It belongs to the most consistent. The ultimate reward of self-discipline. Self-discipline isn't about being strict with yourself. It's about setting yourself free. Free from excuses. Free from doubt. Free from that voice that says, I can't. When you practice discipline every day, even in small ways, you're not just learning English. You're building the kind of strength that changes everything about your life. Let's pause for a second. Think about where you started. Maybe you couldn't understand a sentence. Maybe you felt shy to speak. Maybe you thought you'd never improve. But here you are, still learning, still trying, still growing. That's not luck. That's discipline. And that discipline doesn't stop at English. The same mindset that helps you study every day can help you achieve anything. Fitness, career goals, relationships, finances. Because once you learn how to do something even when it's hard, you become unstoppable. Here's a truth that many people miss. Discipline is self-respect. Every time you show up to study, you're telling yourself, my goals matter. Every time you refuse to quit, you're saying, I believe in myself. And every time you stay consistent, even when no one sees, you're proving that your dreams are worth fighting for. That's the ultimate reward of discipline. Confidence. Not the fake confidence that comes from showing off, but the real kind. The quiet certainty that says, I can handle this. When you learn English through discipline, you don't just speak differently, you think differently. You become calmer, sharper, more focused. You start seeing progress in everything you do. Let me tell you something powerful. Fluency is not the goal. Growth is. Because the moment you master one thing, there's always something new to learn. But if you have discipline, you never fear the next challenge. You welcome it. Think about how your life will look 1 year from now if you stay consistent. Imagine waking up, opening your messages, and understanding everything in English. Imagine joining a meeting or chatting online without hesitation. Imagine that version of you, confident, fluent, and proud. That person isn't a dream. That person is built by your daily habits, by every word you practice, by every time you choose effort over comfort, by every time you tell yourself, I'll keep going. And when you finally reach that point, when English becomes part of who you are, you'll realize something even deeper. You didn't just learn a language. You learned how to learn. You proved that you can create any version of yourself you desire, one disciplined step at a time. Here's the beauty of it all. Self-discipline doesn't make life easier. It makes you stronger. It turns frustration into patience, fear into courage, and confusion into clarity. It transforms your goals from someday into today. So the next time you sit down to study and feel tired, remember this. Every word you read, every sentence you write, every mistake you correct, it's all part of your transformation. You're not just learning English. You're becoming the kind of person who never gives up. And when you become that person, there's nothing in the world you can't achieve. Because learning English is not only about communication, It's about confidence. It's not only about grammar, it's about growth. And it's not only about words, it's about the power of discipline that shapes your entire life. So take this message with you today. Start small. Stay consistent. Be patient. Discipline is not punishment. It's the path to your potential. And as you continue this journey, remember, you already have everything you need to succeed. You just need to keep showing up. Now go and take action. Speak, learn, and grow, because the world is waiting to hear your voice in English. And if this video inspired you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, not just to support this channel, but to remind yourself that your journey matters and that your discipline is leading you to something extraordinary. Keep learning, keep believing, keep moving forward, because your best self, confident, fluent, and unstoppable, is already on the way.